What's hidden beneath Antarctica's ice? The signal. In 1958, a group of Soviet researchers stationed at a remote outpost in East Antarctica picked up something on their instruments that shouldn't have existed. It wasn't a storm. It wasn't seismic activity. It was a rhythmic pulse, buried nearly 2 kilometers beneath the ice sheet, repeating every 11 seconds, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. The station's chief engineer logged it as anomalous subsurface resonance, and moved on. There was no time to investigate. The continent doesn't forgive curiosity, not in temperatures that drop past -60, not in months of endless night. But the signal didn't stop. It's still being recorded today, by satellites that were never designed to listen for it. Antarctica is the last truly unmapped place on Earth. 98% of it is buried under ice that, in some places, is nearly 3 miles thick, ice that has been undisturbed for over 400,000 years. It is a vault, and like every vault, it was built to keep something in, or something out. This is the story of what modern science has found beneath that ice. Some of it has been confirmed. Some of it remains classified, leaked, or quietly dismissed by the institutions that discovered it. Either way, it doesn't add up to nothing. The lake that shouldn't exist. 4 kilometers beneath the Antarctic ice sheet lies Lake Vostok, a body of water the size of Lake Ontario, sealed off from the rest of the planet for at least 15 million years. No sunlight, no contact with the atmosphere, crushing pressure, near freezing temperatures. By every rule of biology, nothing should live there. In 2012, Russian scientists finally drilled through to the lake after decades of careful engineering, terrified of contaminating an ecosystem that had never once touched the outside world. What they found didn't make headlines the way it should have. Water samples pulled from Vostok contained bacterial DNA unlike anything in existing databases, sequences that didn't match any known branch of the tree of life. Scientists have since floated a term for it that rarely appears in peer-reviewed literature: domain unknown. Some researchers argue this is simply contamination, or bacteria so ancient and so isolated that classification systems built on modern organisms simply can't process them. Others aren't so sure, because Vostok isn't the only lake down there. There are over 400 subglacial lakes scattered beneath Antarctica's ice, many of them connected by a network of rivers that flow beneath the ice sheet, rivers that have never seen sunlight, moving through a landscape no human has ever touched. And at least one of those lakes sits directly beneath the source of that 11-second pulse. The gravity anomaly. In 2006, NASA's GRACE satellite mission, designed to measure subtle shifts in Earth's gravitational field, picked up something strange near Wilkes Land, a region of East Antarctica. A gravitational anomaly roughly 300 miles wide, consistent with an object of extraordinary density buried deep within the crust. Scientists propose the most logical explanation: an ancient asteroid impact, possibly the crater responsible for the Permian-Triassic extinction event 250 million years ago, the deadliest mass extinction in Earth's history, one that wiped out nearly 90% of all species on the planet. That explanation is the one you'll find in textbooks. It's tidy, it's plausible, it's also incomplete, because impact craters don't typically produce rhythmic electromagnetic pulses. They don't shift in intensity with the seasons. And they don't appear to be, according to several ice-penetrating radar surveys conducted between 2016 and 2019, structurally symmetrical in ways natural geological formations rarely are. The official surveys describing this were never fully released to the public. Portions were published in restricted geophysical journals, then quietly withdrawn from open-access servers less than a year later, with only a vague note about data recalibration. We don't know what recalibration means in this context. Nobody outside the research team does. The MEN WHO went quiet. In January 2003, a joint research team, American, Norwegian, and Australian scientists, set out on an expedition to Wilkes Land to conduct ice core sampling near the anomaly zone. Their mission logs, later obtained through Freedom of Information requests, describe 11 days of routine drilling. On the 12th day, the entries stopped being routine. One geologist wrote about instrument malfunctions that defied explanation: compasses spinning without cause, radio equipment picking up interference patterned too precisely to be static. Another entry, attributed to the expedition's youngest member, described hearing what he called a hum in the ice itself, audible even without equipment, especially at night. The expedition was recalled 8 days ahead of schedule. Official reason: equipment failure and weather risk. 3 of the 11 researchers on that trip never returned to fieldwork. One left academia entirely. When contacted years later by a science journalist investigating the anomaly, none of them agreed to go on record. One reportedly said only, "Some places don't want to be studied." Make of that what you will. What the ice remembers. Ice isn't just frozen water. It's a timeline. Every layer of an ice core is a snapshot of the atmosphere at the moment it froze. Trapped air bubbles, ash from volcanic eruptions, radioactive particles from events thousands of miles away. Scientists can read Earth's climate history going back hundreds of thousands of years just by studying the layers, like rings in a tree. In 2015, a research team studying an ice core extracted near the Wilkes Land anomaly found something they weren't looking for. A layer, dated to approximately 12,000 years ago, containing unusually high concentrations of platinum and iridium, elements almost never found in Earth's crust naturally but common in extraterrestrial material. This lines up almost exactly with a controversial period in climate science known as the Younger Dryas, a sudden, drastic cooling event that plunged the northern hemisphere back into ice age conditions in what may have been less than a decade. Some scientists believe it was triggered by a comet fragment impact. It remains one of the most disputed periods in modern paleoclimatology. If something did strike Antarctica around that time, something large enough to leave both a gravitational signature and an elemental fingerprint in the ice, the region beneath Wilkes Land may not just be a geological curiosity. It may be evidence. The military interest. Antarctica is protected under the 1959 Antarctic Treaty, which bans military activity, weapons testing, and territorial claims on the continent. 56 countries have signed it. And yet, since 2009, satellite tracking enthusiasts and open-source intelligence researchers have documented an unusual pattern of military aircraft, specifically US and Russian transport planes not typically associated with civilian research logistics, making regular trips to bases near Wilkes Land, far more frequently than comparable research zones elsewhere on the continent. Officially, these flights are attributed to logistics support for climate research stations. No treaty violation has ever been proven, and no credible evidence points to a secret base or hidden installation. But it raises an uncomfortable question: why does one remote stretch of ice, home to nothing but an old impact crater and a strange gravitational blip, receive so much quiet attention from two of the world's most well-funded militaries? Either the anomaly is far more geologically significant than we've been told, or something else was found down there, something worth protecting from public knowledge. The pulse, revisited. That 11-second pulse first detected in 1958 has never been fully explained. Modern seismologists have proposed it could be the sound of ice shelves shifting against bedrock, a phenomenon known as icequakes, which do produce rhythmic, repeating seismic patterns. This is the mainstream, most defensible explanation, and it likely accounts for the majority of unusual signals recorded across the continent. But researchers who've studied the specific frequency and depth of the Wilkes Land pulse note that icequakes are typically irregular, responding to temperature, pressure, and tidal forces, not maintaining a constant 11-second interval for over 60 years, through every season, every temperature shift, every documented environmental change since the signal was first recorded. Something that consistent, that deep, sitting directly above a mysterious high-density anomaly, in the one region of Antarctica that seems to draw more military and scientific attention than anywhere else on the continent. It doesn't have to be extraordinary to be worth asking about. It just has to be unexplained. And it still is. What we actually know. Let's step back from the edge of speculation and look at what's actually documented, verifiable, and undisputed. Antarctica hides over 400 lakes beneath its ice, several containing microbial life that predates human civilization by millions of years, some genetically unlike anything catalogued. A massive gravitational anomaly sits beneath Wilkes Land, most likely explained by an ancient impact crater tied to Earth's worst extinction event. Ice cores from the region show elemental signatures consistent with a possible extraterrestrial impact around 12,000 years ago, coinciding with one of the most abrupt climate shifts in human prehistory. An unexplained rhythmic signal has been recorded from beneath the ice for over 6 decades, with no fully accepted scientific explanation. None of this proves conspiracy. Every individual piece has a plausible, mundane explanation on its own. But taken together, they sketch the outline of a place we still don't understand, a 2-mile thick lid over lakes, life, and geological forces that have been sealed away since before humans existed. The vault stays shut. Antarctica will keep its secrets a little longer. Ice-penetrating radar and satellite gravimetry can only tell us so much from the surface. To truly know what's down there, what's living in that isolated dark water, what left that gravitational scar, what's producing a signal older than the Cold War itself, someone will eventually have to go back down. And when they do, they'll be following the same 11-second pulse that's been calling from beneath the ice since 1958. Waiting, patient, undisturbed. Some vaults are built to protect what's inside from us. Others might be built to protect us from what's inside. End.